We begin with our brand new NBC News poll and the headline. With just over 3 weeks until Election Day, former President Trump and Vice President Harris are now tied among registered voters, 48 to 48%. The 5-point lead Harris held after the presidential debate a month ago is now gone. Steve Kornacki will take us inside the numbers, including the enormous gender gap, just moments from now. Donald Trump's approval rating, now 48%, is higher than his job rating was at any point during his presidency. By 43 to 41%, more voters are concerned that Harris will continue President Biden's approach than are concerned that former President Trump will continue his first-term approach. On the trail, Vice President Harris has struggled to answer how she would be different than her current boss.
NBC News is sounding the alarm. The Kamala campaign is indeed imploding. We're going to see exactly why the Democrat-infested legacy media is melting down today. We got the latest on what's happening in all the swing states, and we've got the latest on what to expect for this race in the days ahead. Hey, gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, here to help you stay sane in these insane times. So you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Before we dive into the Kamala campaign implosion, I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of this video, and that's the makers of Liver Health Formula. Now, if you're one of the 100 million Americans struggling with all the weight gain and loss of energy that comes with a fatty liver, this is an absolutely awesome supplement. Liver Health Formula is an all-natural supplement. It contains 12 clinically proven botanicals that helps recharge and protect your liver. It's manufactured right here in the good old USA and approved by independent American doctors. And if you click on that link below right now, you can actually try Liver Health Formula and receive a free bottle of blood sugar formula when you order today. So don't let a fatty liver keep you sluggish and inactive. You all know that this is personal for me. I recently lost over 60 pounds, and I could say it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. And guess what? Now it's your turn. Click on that link below or go to getliverhelp.com/Turley and claim your free bonus gift. That's getliverhelp.com/Turley.
The big headline, this is a national head-to-head poll, is that Vice President Kamala Harris had a 5-point lead in our last poll taken a month ago, right after the debate. That lead has all but evaporated, Willie. Take a look at this new head-to-head matchup. 48% to 48%. That is what we call a deadlocked race. It underscores what we all know, that this is tight, that the country is sharply divided. One of the other big headlines here, people are viewing the Trump presidency more favorably than the Biden presidency. Why is that significant? We've seen the vice president get pressed repeatedly on what she would do differently than President Biden, and she's really struggled with that answer.
The latest NBC News polling is just absolutely devastating for Kamala. Head-to-head, Trump and Harris are tied at 48 apiece. In a full field, it's Trump up by 1, 47 to 46. But the real news here is that this poll represents a falling average for Kamala. It's a 5 to 6 point swing to Trump from NBC's last polling, which had Kamala up by 5. In fact, it's worse than that. According to NBC, Kamala has fallen 9 points in the last 4 weeks. The more she's out there for everyone to see, the less people like her. We talked about this on our live stream Friday broadcast, but all across the board, Kamala's polling averages are literally plummeting. All across the board. National polls, swing state polls, it doesn't matter where you look. Here's NBC's own analysis of what's behind this dramatic and decisive swing to Trump.
No, absolutely not. And maybe a reason for that, too, is remember, she's the VP in an unpopular administration. Look, we asked Joe Biden's policies as president. Do you think they're helping or hurting your family? Look at that. Almost 2 to 1 say hurting more than helping. His job approval rating is in the low 40s. And then here's the twist. When you ask folks, when Trump was president, were his policies helping or hurting? Look at that difference. 44% say helping, 31% say they hurt. So retrospectively, wow. Trump is getting some numbers here.
That's the retrospective job approval rating that we've been talking about for months now. And again, it goes back to the notion first put forward by Byron York over at the Washington Examiner some months ago, The secret sauce to Trump's unprecedented popularity this year is that he really does have the simplest campaign pitch imaginable. One, things were great when I was president. Two, everything went to hell when Biden and Harris took over. Three, elect me and I'll make things great again. That's been the whole campaign in a nutshell. When I was president, we had peace abroad, prosperity at home. Biden and Harris came in and gave us nothing more than endless wars and domestic depression. Vote for me and I'll restore peace and prosperity. And Byron York admitted this, again, was months ago. I believe it was January of this year. He admitted that simple messaging was clearly resonating with the vast majority of voters. This is the advantage of Trump being the first hybrid candidate. He's part incumbent in that he was once president, but he's also part insurgent in that he is not president, right? So he's effectively an incumbent in that he has a clear record of economic flourishing and massive job creation across the board, the building of the wall, securing the border and the like. But he's an insurgent. He's new. He can solve the problems, the economic and border disasters that the current administration has unleashed on the nation. Now, just to put this in historic perspective, you want to really know why NBC is panicking here. Here is the same network via MSNBC and what they were saying at this exact same time back in October of 2020.
What does it show? We'll take a look. It shows Joe Biden ahead by 14 points, 53 to 39%. This is among registered voters. Again, the NBC Wall Street Journal poll. We had taken one just before the debate. Biden led by 8. And again, you can see that 53-39 lead. That's a pretty significant jump. So entirely conducted after the debate, showing some significant movement. Biden's, well, that's the biggest lead Biden's had in this poll over Donald Trump, 14 points.
14 points. According to the same polling, same methodology, same sampling, same weighting, the Democrat at this point in the 2020 race was up 14 points over Trump. Now, keep in mind, that supposed 14-point lead was itself illusory. It was, of course, ultimately off by 10 points on Election Day. Biden went on to win the popular vote by only 4.5 points. But not only that, Trump came within 40,000 votes of pulling off the unthinkable. The unthinkable, if all you do is watch NBC. Biden went into that election day with a double-digit lead, only to come within 40,000 votes, 10,000 Arizona, 10,000 in Georgia, 20,000 in Wisconsin. He came within just 40,000 votes of losing the Electoral College. Now, you don't have to be a genius here, okay? If a 14-point Democrat lead at this time in October came within 40,000 votes of the Democrat losing in November, what do you think a Trump +1 lead translates into? Rogan O'Hanley sums it up very well. If Harris is up 3 points or less nationally, Trump sweeps the swing states and wins the Electoral College easily, just like he did in 2016. Hillary won the national vote by 2 to 3. If they are tied, it's Trump in a landslide. And the polls today are showing the race is tied. Make no mistake, a tied race nationally is an electoral disaster for Kamala. And it's not just because it suggests a Republican rout of the swing states. It's because Trump always overperforms his polling. Just like I showed you, NBC was off by 10 points. Trump outperformed that poll by 10 points. So make no mistake, a tied race coming from NBC polling with the same methodology, a tied race right now is a nightmare situation for the Harris campaign. This is nothing less than a 5-alarm fire. But speaking of swing states here, take a look at this. As we would predict, based on the tied national polling, Trump is running away with it in the RCP swing state aggregate. So again, these are all the polls averaged out in each swing state, what we're calling the Big Seven: Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. And Real Clear Politics, RCP, they average out all of the polling, the good, the bad, the ugly, aggregates them all, puts them all together and aggregates them. And feast your eyes on this. Trump is leading in 6 of the 7 swing state averages. And the one state that he's not leading is Wisconsin. Now, why is that important? If you're a regular to this channel, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And by the way, if not, make sure you smack that bell and subscribe button. You don't want to miss a single video as we go countdown to November 5th here. But if you're a regular to this channel, you'll know why Wisconsin is so important there. It's because Wisconsin, what? Always. Well, let's do our 3 always. Always, always, always. Did I say always? Wisconsin always polls to the left, but votes to the right. That's the pattern for Wisconsin. Wisconsin always, always, always votes to the right of its polling. Again, let's go down memory lane, shall we? Late October 2020, the Washington Post ABC poll had Biden up by 17 freaking points in Wisconsin. 17 points in a state that Biden, quote, went on to, quote, win by less than 1%. He won by 0.6%, right? Trump came within 20,000 votes of winning Wisconsin. A 17 freaking point lead reduced down to 0.6. Talk about a major correction. Again, these pollsters, I always tell you, these pollsters always, they poll always in the favor of Democrats so as to get Democrats the funds they need from donors when they see the polls and to try to fabricate a narrative that everybody needs to jump on board the winning train, which is the Democrat, blah, blah, blah. Wisconsin always polls to the left and votes to the right. So we can safely say that Trump is leading right now in every single swing state, every one of the big 7. So what's really going on here? Is Kamala really crashing in the polls? And I just alluded to it there. In order to really understand what's going on here, gang, we need to go back to what we were talking about on our live stream Friday's broadcast, the end of last week. The legacy media polls are performed like a 2-act play. So the first act is we might call it the puff poll act, okay? And these are all these radically pro-Democrat leaning polls. You'll notice Republicans are never running away with it early on in the election. It's always the Democrat. And the whole purpose of these polls is twofold: to fund and to fabricate. Those polls are there to fund and fabricate. Remember, polling is an industry. There's a lot of money pumped into polling, precisely because polling generates a lot of money, particularly for the Democrats. That's why all the early polls always favor the Democrats. So the Democrat can take those polls to a donor, and then that donor is going to write a nice, big, fat check, right? You could be sure Biden got lots of money after they saw that plus 17 Wisconsin poll that just turned out to be a fraud. It's an absolute fraud. So the purpose is to fund and fabricate. First, they're going to try to get the Democrat candidates awash in cash. All Democrat donors need to see is just that nice poll, then they write them a big, big, big check. That's the first purpose of these polls, to make sure Democrat candidates are well funded. But the second purpose is in Act 1 is to fabricate a narrative that persuades voters to move in the Democrats' direction, because nobody wants to be on the losing team. Right? So these puff polls always favor the Democrats in Act 1 of this campaign play. And Act 1 is dedicated to funding and fabricating. But then inevitably there's an Act 2. And Act 2 involves the last few weeks of the campaign. And that's when all the polling outlets have to save face. They have to produce actually accurate polling so as to maintain their polling grade standards. Again, gang, polling's a racket. The polling outlets manipulate the numbers so as to benefit themselves and the Democrats financially. So in the final few weeks of the campaign, they have to make sure their final polls are as close to the election outcome as possible so as to maintain their grade as an accurate pollster. So what does all that mean? It means Act 1 is all about funding and fabricating on behalf of the Democrat. Act 2 is all about seeing if that funding and fabrication actually worked. And this is when the polls, frankly, start to get honest, and brutally so. When all's said and done, it's not a matter of Kamala ever having that kind of lead over Trump. This is what I've been telling you for months now. Rich Barris has been telling you that. Larry Schweikert's been telling you that. Robert Barnes has been telling you that. Mark Mitchell over at Rasmussen has been telling you, who's, by the way, we're going to have Mark on, I believe, this week. Kamala never had a 7, 8, 9-point lead over Trump. Never. They were puff polls. They were technically known as response bias polls for the purpose of fundraising and fabricating on behalf of Kamala. But now the polls have to start being honest. And when they're being honest, what are we seeing? We are seeing nothing short of a potential Trump landslide in the making. And it's always been that. That's what they've been hiding from you these last 3 months. But no more. And now the legacy media is sounding the alarm. The Kamala campaign is indeed, as it always has been, in serious trouble. The curtain is about to drop.